So, based on the book part, the pages that we've looked at so far, we're going to look at making inferences. Now, we've had a look at inference in one of our lessons from last week. We're going to explore it a little bit more today and focus primarily on one type of question. So when we make inferences from the text and explain what we're looking for, we have to justify these inferences, so our opinions and understanding, with evidence from the text. So what this actually means is you'd have to pick up ideas from the text that aren't always written there in words to see. So you have to sometimes read the text almost a bit like a detective. So you're not exactly looking for the key words from the question or the key parts of the information, but you're looking for what might have what the meaning might be behind it. So sometimes we use that phrase, like I said last week, we read between the lines. We have to use the information given to us to almost create our own understanding of what we think that author's trying to tell us. For example, if you see in the text that says, Jenny's face was red, she wrinkled her brow and began to shout. Now, it doesn't explain there how Jenny's feeling, but it's given us clues as to the way that she's looking, the way that she's behaving, and the way that she sounds that might give us a clue. So when it says Jenny's face was red, well, we need to think to ourselves, well, when might our face go red? Now, we know our faces might go red if we get hot, because obviously all the blood rushes to our face. That could be a temperature thing, so it could be because we're in the summer. Sometimes our faces go red if we're a little bit embarrassed and we blush a little bit, so our cheeks go pink. And sometimes, I know if we get a little bit angry, certainly if you look at toddlers and babies, when they get really cross and they start to scream and get really angry, their face goes bright red. But now it says here, she wrinkled her brow. And as you wrinkled your brow, that's where you frown. Now, I know when I'm hot in the summer, I don't frown. Or when I'm embarrassed, I don't frown. But when I might be cross with someone or not particularly happy, I might frown at you. So we know she's gone bright red. And now we said that she's frowning. And then it says she begins to shout. Now, I know the only time that I'm going to have a wrinkled face and I'm going to shout is when I'm really, really cross. So if I now link that back to the clues of having a red face, well, I know it's not from the summer and from being embarrassed, but I think, it could be because I'm angry. But that fits nicely into thinking, well, that might be why my brow's wrinkled and I'm frowning. And that might be a result of what I'm shouting at. So using those little clues, that could possibly tell us that Jenny is feeling very angry or very cross. But rather than telling us that she's been cross or that she feels cross, they've given us clues. So this is where they've used show, not tell. So they've shown us that she's angry, but they've not told us that. So we've got to use those clues to be able to help us work out how that character might be feeling. Now, there are different types of questions that you could be asked. So I'm going to run through them all, and then I'm going to pick one for us to work on today. So what makes you think... ... Give evidence to support your answer. This is when you have to give an opinion. So there's no right or wrong answers when there's an opinion, but you have to use evidence in the text to back up your answer. What impression are we given about? So it could be, what impression are we given about Sorrel in the book so far? And why have we been given that impression? So we'd have to go back and find evidence from the text based on what we think Sorrel is like as a character. Why is ... important? Explain your answer. So there might be an element from the text or from the chapter where you've got to think about why is it important that we've now got a human in our story? Why is it important that they had to hide Fire Drake so that he didn't go near the other rat? And then you have to explain your answer. So you'd have to use clues again from the text. Why did the character behave like this? We think, well, why does Rat start to get shrieky and shrilly when she's talking to the dragons? Why does she decide she's going to behave like this? Again, evidence from the text. What does the character feel about the situation and how do you know? So this is where we're looking back to clues, like the example with Jenny. What do they look like? How are they responding with their responses? What are the adverbs that are being used? What are the verbs that are being used? How would we describe them? What are the clues? And what character would you most like to meet and why? So again, there's no right or wrong answer to any of these kind of inference questions, but you need to be able to use the evidence from the text to support you with your answers. So we are going to focus primarily today on a fact and opinion question style, okay? So it might be said, you give an example, look at the section headed frequently asked questions. So usually it will show you to a certain part on the book or a page where it's going to ask you specific questions. And what you have to do is you have to identify which of those facts in there, which of those statements are facts and which of those statements are an opinion, okay? So it's not something that appears very often, okay? but it's a very easy question for you to get your 2 marks on. Now, although we know there's going to be 8 answers, you have to get 3 out of 4 of them to be able to get 1 mark. And if you get them all correct, then you get your 2 marks. Now, because you're just retrieving the information for fact and opinion, it's quite easy to be able to do these. But my question to you is, well, what makes something a fact and what makes something an opinion? So a fact is a true statement. Okay, so when you've got pure facts that's there, given, it says something is or isn't what it is. Now, an opinion is based on what someone thinks. So when you have an opinion on something, it's what you think, it's what you believe, but it's not necessarily something that's exactly true or false. So let's have a look at these questions. So pause the video. I want you to look down this list and decide which of these you think might be fact and which ones you think are an opinion. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, number 1, January is the first month in the year. Well, we know that that's true, and it says January is the first month. Now, we know from knowledge that January is the very first month of the year because we go from December straight to January. So I know that one's a fact straight away. Madrid is the capital of Spain. Now, you may not know that answer off the top of your head, but if you typed it into Google, it would come up and tell you that Madrid is indeed the capital of Spain. So we know that that is a fact. That is a true statement. Football is the best sport. Now, it says football is the best sport, just like it says January is the first month of the year. But there's multiple different sports. There's not a particular month that could have been replaced for January, but there's lots of different sports. And I know for a fact that I don't think that football is the best sport. No offence, Year 5. I know you're all shouting at the screen right now. Some of you going, how dare you, Miss Humphrey, not like football? But I'm sorry. I strongly, no, I don't strongly disagree, but I disagree, and I don't think that football is the best sport. But that might mean that makes that an opinion, because it's not something that is or isn't the case, but it might be something that differs between 2 different people. Number 4, it is 19 degrees today. Well, that's definitely a fact, because we can tell whether it is or isn't 90 degrees by looking at the weather reports. Now, Sammy's hair looks better when it's long. Well, it's not a fact. I might say that I've got long hair now and it's better long, and if I came in and chopped it all off, some of you might go, well, actually, it's better with it shorter, Miss Humphrey. Now, because that's a difference of an opinion, so one person thinks one thing and the other person thinks the other, that's going to be an opinion. Now, I am really good at running. Now, you're into Secret Year 5. I am indeed actually quite good at running. I was good at running until I got old and lazy. So I am very good at running. But if I was to run against some of you at school, like Keaton or Damari or Megan, yeah, I might not be that good at running in comparison. So I think that's going to be more of an opinion-based thing. I mean, I think it's true on my behalf, but anyway, one of those. Now, I am shivering. Now, that's something you would be doing there and then. So you're going to know whether you're shivering or not. So that one is absolutely a fact. So well done if you've been able to identify the difference of what makes a fact and what constitutes being an opinion. So an opinion is where you use your own thoughts and your explicit thinking and your breaking down of those skills of how to identify whether you like or dislike something or you have an opinion about it. So what I'd like to do is we're going to recap on this chapter that we've been looking at this week. So pause the video and just have a quick read of it to remind yourself about what it was that we'd read, and we're going to focus on some of those questions to show you today. So pause the video and have a quick read. Okay, so we're going to do one of these type of questions together. Now I'm focusing primarily on this part of our text. I've got it up in front of me because I might need to go and highlight some of the key information that's going to help me answer my questions. So let's look at the first one. Katana found the gems on her last raid. Now, I'm not necessarily looking for keywords, but they're going to help me if they do or don't appear in the text, because that's going to give me a clue as to whether it's going to be a fact or an opinion. So I could be looking for the keywords of gems and last raid. Now, if I have a look at my text, I can find gems here, the very first line. Katana had found the topaz gems in a chest on her last raid. Okay, so if I skip something, it says last raid. Now that is an absolute fact because it says that that's exactly where she found them, on her last raid. So that is indeed a fact. Number 2, she felt scared when being chased by the enemy. So I'm looking for a feeling or an emotion that's going to come across in our writing. So I'm looking for something that says she felt scared, but at the point in time where she's being chased by the enemy. So I'm looking for something where she's being chased away and something that, and a word that's going to suggest how she's feeling. So if I have a look at my text here, I've got the enemy. Now, it doesn't mention anything about her being chased, but she knows she's had to run. So we know she's running away before the enemy gets to her. but it hasn't necessarily told me anything about how she's feeling. So I'm going to have to reread around that sentence. So it says she scooped them into a sack without looking and had run before the enemy could capture her. It was only when she'd reached safety that she'd been able to look at them. Now, at no point in time does it specify how she feels. Now, I know that if I'm being chased by someone, I know that I might be in some form of danger. That's going to make me quite scared. But that's an opinion, because that's what I think I could be feeling like. Therefore, she could be feeling like that. But it hasn't specified or told us that that's exactly how she's feeling. And there aren't any clues to suggest that that's how she's feeling either. So that one is going to be an opinion statement. Okay. Now, the topaz could be used to make powerful weapons. So I'm looking for the keywords of topaz, used, and powerful weapons. Now, I can see here it says that topaz was rare. And if I read a bit further on, it says they are rare, but rare enough to be able to make powerful weapons. So I know that that's something that the topaz can be used for. So I know that's going to be a fact. And then I'm looking at diamonds. Diamonds are rarer than topaz. So again, I found the topaz here, that topaz is rare. But then the next statement says it's not as rare as diamond. Now, if it's not as rare, that must mean that diamond is more rare than topaz. So I know that is indeed a fact. Okay. So it's your turn to have a go now. Pause the video and have a look through the text and see if you can work out which of these statements is fact and which one is opinion. Okay, let's go through them together. So the first one, she would become almost unstoppable with the topaz weapons. Okay, so I need to find where I'm going to find this information in the text. So if I have a look at this snippet here, okay, it says under here that it makes her almost unstoppable. Okay, now it says there that she would become almost unstoppable. Now, although we know that the topaz weapons could give us some additional power, there is nothing to say that it's going to make her unstoppable. Something could go horribly wrong down the line, and it completely go upside down and not be good at all. So although it looks like it's stated here as a fact, it's actually more of an opinion, because there is nothing to say, there's no proof or hard evidence that it's going to make her almost unstoppable. So that's a sneaky one I gave you there, because I think that's an opinion. Now, quartz was not considered rare. So if we have a look here in this statement, it says the quartz spear was nothing special. Now, if it's nothing special, we're not going to really be bothered by it. But then the next part of it says there are plenty like it. Now, if we've got access to lots of something, that means it's not rare. Okay, and it says here quartz was not considered rare. Okay, so that is indeed a fact because we have plenty of it. Now, quartz is not a shiny gem, so we're looking again for something to describe how the quartz looks. Now, it says here the spear's cloudy white point. Now, we know that the spear is made of quartz, and that's going to be the stone on the end. Now, if we read on, it says here that it glinted dully. Now, we know if something's quite dull, it hasn't got a shiny exterior to it. So we know that that one is indeed a fact. Now, without the gems, she would be nothing. Now, down here it says that she was almost unstoppable with the topaz weapons, but if she had the fire opal weapons, she'd be truly unstoppable. So the more rare that the gems became, the more power she'd have. But that clearly means that if she didn't have the gems, she'd have no power whatsoever. So without those gems, she'd be absolutely nothing. She wouldn't be able to be powerful without those weapons. So that in itself is an opinion because it doesn't actually specify that she wouldn't be anything, but we know that she'd be getting more and more powerful with the weapons. So that one was a little bit of a tricky one though, but well done, because there's no right or wrong answer as long as you're able to justify your responses. Okay. So your task for today is to complete the fact and opinion style questions based on what we've read for chapter 5 so far. So that's including yesterday's pages as well. Now what I've done is I've added all of the pages you need to be looking at for today's lesson on the end of this video, okay, just in case you don't have them at home. So remember to identify keywords in your statements and make sure you're using the text to help you identify this, and it will help you tell whether it's fact or opinion, okay? So I'm going to flick through the slides now so that you can see where the pages are. And then when you come out to doing the task, you can pause the video and you can read them off the slide. Okay, good luck, year 5.